And we are recording again. Thank you for listening to the Weeknight Mysteries podcast. My name is Yuras. I am here with Rain. How are you?
Hey Eurus, and hello everyone. Feeling completely okay today. How are you?
Are you sure? Because you looked like you were about to sneeze like 2 seconds ago.
Oh no, not really. I was just longingly looking at my cookie. And for our listeners, I do have one massive chocolate cookie over here.
Yeah, me too, actually. Okay, so today is another day, and we're talking about another case. The Moffatt murders that happened in Queensland, Australia, back in 1977. Thank you very much to Kyla Davies, who suggested this case via email. Thank you very much. So just a friendly reminder to all of our listeners, you could also submit suggestions via weeknightmysteriespodcast at gmail.com. And we always read your emails, and we will talk about whatever you want us to talk about.
Yeah, the replies might be a bit delayed, but we see you and we hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be way more on it, because recently we have been getting more emails. And when I say we have been getting more emails, I don't mean that we get a ton of emails all the time, but now it's like at least a few per week, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. We also get some messages in our social medias, no?
Yeah, the social media stuff, I feel like we need to start working on it again. Maybe you could do some social media work for us.
Sure.
Yeah, because we kind of stopped that. But let's delve deeper into today's topic. Everything happened in Maryborough. It's a small town situated in Queensland. Queensland is one of the locations or states. I feel like it's a state. I hope it's a state in Australia. And it's the capital of Queensland is this big city called Brisbane. Brisbane, you've heard about it, right? Maryborough, where the topic of today takes place, is situated on the Mary River, and it's about 200 kilometers or 130 miles north of Queensland's capital, Brisbane. Bill Moffatt was the local bank manager of the Commercial Bank of Australia. He was born in 1926 in Kangaroo in Queensland and had been a cadet in the 66th Squadron of the Air Training Corps in 1943. After he left school, he began working for the Commercial Bank of Australia. And this bank is basically where Bill Moffatt spent his entire career. He was moving through the ranks. I'll walk you through the details in a little bit. In 1944, he was transferred to Maryborough, which is a small town in Queensland with a population of only a couple of hundred people. Then somewhere between 1944 and 1950, he was transferred to Home Hill in far north Queensland. This is already approximately 1,200 kilometers north of Brisbane. So this is on the edge of Queensland. While there, stationed in Home Hill working for the bank, he met his wife, Edith. They were already married in 1950, and the next year, by 1951, the two of them moved to Townsville. We have a picture of Bill and Edith. To me, they look like your, typical couple in their 50s. Typical Australian couple in their 50s. Is there anything that jumps out to you specifically from this picture?
Man, that's a really tough question. They're basically just an old couple that you would see on the street. That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Nothing stands out at all.
Nothing stands out.
They look nice though.
They look nice. This is the only picture that I was able to find. there are not a lot of pictures about this case, actually. So this is the only picture I was able to find related to the murders. Over the next 20 years, the two of them were sent all over Queensland as Bill's career progressed. And by early 70s, they were located in Kingaroy, which may have played a little bit of a role in the murders, but we will discuss that as we move along. In Kingaroy, they spent a few years, and then they finally transferred to Maryborough, the place where they were killed in 1974. And just like they had previously when transferring to a new town, they quickly became involved in the community via the church and charity groups. I have a couple of images of Maryborough. I kind of went on the maps here. I tried to take a look how the city looks like, what's the vibe. So as you can see, it's kind of like on the coast in Queensland, so it's more like a coastal town. So it does have a little bit of that, let's say, tourist attraction energy, a little bit, not super much, you know what I mean? It's not like Gold Coast. Gold Coast is the bigger city, kind of close to Maryborough. Gold Coast is the 6th largest city in Australia. It's like a resort town. But I think Maryborough, if I remember correctly, it's the suburb of that big city. Yeah, it just looks like your run-of-the-mill city. I mean, we have a couple of images. I don't know if there's much to talk about it. You probably have nothing else to add looking at these pictures.
Definitely nothing.
So Maryborough in the 70s in Queensland, it was actually quite of a notable town for its size. It had like a rich heritage and a strong sense of community. It had industrial roots and some sort of a historical significance as well. It had a strong industrial base, particularly in the engineering and manufacturing. There was this company called the Walker Limited Engineering Works, which was a major employer at the city. I think a lot of people worked at the Walker Limited Engineering Works. This company was producing sugar mill machinery, railway rolling stocks, and even naval vessels, it by the looks of it. The port of Maryborough, it was not already at its peak, but it still played a regional role in the vicinity and community events. There was local theater, sports, all of these things. They were basically central to social life at Maryborough. And I think there was around 30,000 people living at the town. So it's not that big that it would be a really big city, but I think it's just big enough to have everything you need, if you know what I mean. I found the house where the couple was living at. During my research, I did not find the exact address of the house. The only way I was able to, and I think this is the house. The only way I was able to gauge if this is the house was because we have one picture in black and white. I don't know if you see it, of the house. This is definitely their house. And I was trying to look for a similar looking house, and I kind of found a similar looking house on the same street where they lived, and I just made that assumption that this is the house. I'm pretty certain this is the house. What do you think?
Yeah, it definitely looks like the house.
Yeah, what can you tell about the house?
Man, your questions are really tough today because I really have no idea how to answer them, because everything looks, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but kind of plain.
Oh yeah.
It's just a house. How would I describe it? Like,
it has a roof.
It has very
windows.
bland colors.
Has some windows.
Huge front yard. 1 story. Okay, that's it. That's all I have. 1 story house. Kind of massive.
But it's kind of fat.
Wide, you meant?
Yeah, like it's a fat house, in my opinion.
I can imagine like 3 bedrooms in here and a living room and a kitchen and all.
Yeah.
Maybe
like
a
that.
basement, and that's all.
Yeah, so it's like a standard house, let's say. So now let's talk about the crime that took place. So let's move to September 21st, 1977. This was Wednesday, the day before the murders. And it started normally on this Wednesday morning. Bill left for the bank and he started working at the bank doing his daily tasks at around 8:30. I've read a couple of sources and it seems to me that what Bill was doing that day was mostly working on loan applications. He was the bank's manager. He would be handling those types of things. He would be basically the decision maker, making the decision whether or not a person gets a bank loan or, if their credit score is not good enough, and he would deny the other ones. 1 hour into his workday at around 9:30, he walked a short distance to the local library and he gave a presentation about stamp collecting because he had a valuable stamp collection himself. By 11 a.m., he had returned to the bank and he kept working on loan applications until around 5:30 p.m. and that's when he returned home. As usual for the couple, they had evening events to attend that day. Bill had a meeting at the church. He was a secretary for the local Uniting Church. Uniting Church is like a branch of churches, like the Christianity branch. It's probably not correct what I'm saying, but you know what I'm trying to say here. And he was helping with the restructuring and financial matters related to the merging of the Presbyterian and Methodist Church that had occurred earlier in the year. So I think this was a national level event. Two branches of the church merged. And for that local, church, he was the guy kind of like doing the restructuring, like making sure all of the assets kind of like make sense, things like that. And Edith, his wife, was to attend a charity fashion parade. A family friend, Kay Hesse, arrived around 7 p.m. to pick up Edith, and both of them left the house at around 7:15 p.m. in the afternoon or like early evening. Bill shortly after drove to the church meeting. Both of them were home that night by 11 p.m. I don't know exactly how we know that both of them were home by 11 p.m. Maybe a neighbor saw them. So this is unclear, but the write-up says that by 11 p.m. both of them were back home. At 3 a.m. that night, Eddie Crawford, which was a resident in Jupiter Street where the Moffatts lived, and he was a nearby neighbor, he woke up to use the bathroom. I think he woke up on his own accord, like nothing really woke him up, but he woke up. And he was half asleep because, at 3 a.m. you're going to go pee. You're kind of tired. You're not really following along. He hears two muffled shots just seconds apart. He thinks nothing of it and he goes to bed. Now we know that most likely those shots came from the Moffatt residence because the Moffatts were killed. The Moffatts had a dog. It was a blue cattle dog named Bindi. I don't know what a cattle dog is. Do you know what the branch is? I should have looked up this thing.
I could be wrong here, but maybe I'm completely wrong because maybe I'm thinking about a shepherd dog. 1 second, let me Google it to be absolutely sure.
You're thinking about a dog that would be like working
herding cattle.
I mean, what else a kettle dog do?
Cattle,
yeah, not kettle, sorry. A kettle dog on
it's
the
an
other
Australian cattle dog, right?
Yeah, it's a blue cattle dog.
Blue cattle dog. 1 second.
I mean, if it was a kettle dog, I think it would be manning the kettle. Right?
Yeah.
But this
definitely.
is a cattle dog, so this guy is manning the cattle.
It's actually interesting. It's an Australian cattle dog.
Uh-huh.
So it's a local breed, and it's a breed of herding dog developed in Australia for driving cattle over long distances. So it is
Is it a big dog? Do we have some pictures, or is it a small dog?
not a medium size, I guess.
Oh, it's like literally it's medium, but it looks like it's a
On the
work.
smaller, yeah.
But it looks like it's a work dog. Like it looks like it has like actual work utility stuff. So usually Bindi, the dog, would actually bark, but for some reason this night there was no barking from the dog. Like the dog Bindi would bark if there was some sort of like a disturbance in the neighborhood, but this time there was nothing. The next morning by 9:30 a.m., the bank opened and Bill was not there. So this was immediately strange for the bank employees because Bill was usually the first guy at the bank. So it was weird that he did not show up. And also, Edith's friend, Jean Mendu, basically went to the ladies guild meeting that was also scheduled by 9:30, and Edith was supposed to show up. She also did not show up, so 15 minutes later Jean is concerned and she drives to the Moffatt home. So she's like, where's my friend Edith? Why didn't she go to the meeting? She parks her car, she walks past the garage and around the back of the house. She noticed that there were some back windows open at the backyard, as I understand, and the curtains were blowing in and out. And she yelled for Edith, but got no answer. Also, under one of the windows, it was strange because there was a small step ladder propped up. So basically, there was like a ladder kind of like pushed against the window. So it almost seemed like someone went in and out through like that backyard window, which is pretty strange. She came back around and she saw that she came back around and she noticed that there were several newspapers on the footpath. There was a full bottle of milk. It had not been collected yet. And there was the milk was in a wooden box near the side fence. So basically, no one picked up the regular stuff that they should pick up from the front yard. Not long after that, Jean returned to the church. Along with another mutual friend, Ruth Harriman, they made a phone call to the bank where Bill was working, and the accountant, Doug Bell, received the phone call. He told the two ladies that he already called Bill and he couldn't get a hold of him because Bill was missing from work all day. So essentially what happened next, the two ladies drove to the bank, met up with the accountant Doug Bell, and then they picked up Maurice Herman, which was Ruth Herman's husband. He was also the local pastor. So now we have 4 people here. 4 people approximately at 10:30 a.m. arrive at the Moffatt house. And they enter the house. And what they found was shocking. Firstly, Doug, the accountant of the bank, recalls that the bonnet, which is, the front of the car, of Bill's Valiant Regal car, was cold, so meaning that no one really driven it in a while. They decided that they need to enter the house. So they go through the back and they go through the same ladder that was still there. They go up the ladder, and inside of the house, it was really quiet, and there appeared to be no signs of disturbance. Everything was kind of like nicely put together. Edith's handbag was still there with the amount of cash in it. It was not stolen. Other household valuables and jewelries and Bill's briefcase. Everything was there. On the kitchen table, there was a pile of church account books and documents that Bill brought home to work on. So the two men, they made their way down the hallway to the bedroom, and that's where they found both Bill and Edith's bodies. They were laying face down, hands bound behind their backs, tied with a very distinctive pink rope. They had been gagged with Bill's work ties. Both of them were dressed in their pajamas, dressing gowns, and slippers. The bed covers had been thrown back as if the two of them had been rushed out of the bed by someone. Edith was laying horizontal to the end of the bed and with Bill at a slight angle. Their hands were on pillows and close together. There was a small red hole behind Bill's ear and a large pool of blood that was trailing off to the bedroom wall. And we have an image of how the scene looked like. This is not the real crime scene picture. This is a police recreation of the scene. It looks terrifying. And yeah, what do you think about it?
I feel, well, not really. I feel it's very obvious. It could be someone they know, or someone the dog knows. Otherwise, the dog would have barked so loudly.
Yeah, that's immediately one of the clues that the dog didn't bark.
It would have been obvious that someone was inside their home if the dog was barking like frantically.
Exactly. So I don't know how to confirm this or not, but I went on Reddit and I did see one person commenting. I don't know, they have some sort of insider information on this case. They claimed that the dog was old. And they said it was on the way out. Which I'm thinking...
The eyes could be bad. Could have been bad during that time.
I'm thinking, would the old dog still bark?
Yes.
It would still bark.
I think so, yeah. Not as aggressively or as energetic as the younger ones, but I think it would still bark.
Yeah. I completely agree with you on this one. In general, what we're working with here is kind of like, you would think it's like a personal... I don't know what you would think, honestly, but it would just seem like almost like a hitman type of assassination of the Moffatt family. There are things that kind of don't really make sense to me. So the dog being one of them. And the Moffatts had been killed in like cold blood, right? One thing that I don't understand is, why was the dog left alive?
Because whoever the killer may be, that killer didn't have a vendetta against the dog.
Against the dog.
The dog is just a dog, so we know for sure whoever killed him was not a psychopath.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Well, maybe they were a psychopath, but they weren't willing to kill the dog.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You know, they probably... I don't know if the target was both of them. But if it wasn't both of them...
It feels very targeted, this attack. Because, I don't know, maybe I missed a lot of things when researching this case. But were there any other, let's say, victims around the neighborhood or around the surrounding areas?
So, seems like there was nothing else similar that happened in this area in the past. That's why it was so shocking. Alright, so let's kind of talk a little bit about the clues that were left behind. So there was a single fingerprint that was found. There was a news report initially after the murders that police weren't able to find any fingerprints initially, but then a later report states that there was one single fingerprint located on the bed end near where the bodies were. And I think this is kind of strange because there was only one unaccounted fingerprint at the house. How does that even make sense? Because that would mean that the Moffatts don't usually have guests over, you know? So the fingerprint, what do you think about there only being one fingerprint? I mean, honestly, you don't have to think about anything here because maybe there's nothing to think about, but the single fingerprint. I personally find it weird because of this reason. Like, let's say if there's only one fingerprint, means that the Moffatts regularly clean their house and they don't have guests over. So how would this killer subdue Bindi if he's not regular?
Yeah, that's true.
Right? He's not a regular person, or she's. It could be a woman. But they somehow subdued Bindi. I don't know. I found it strange.
I find it really, really strange.
Another strange thing about the case was the pink rope. It was pink nylon rope. And
Oh, come on. Maybe it's the only one available at the hardware store. Come on.
actually,
Don't judge.
damn it, because that's literally the case. I think it was a widely... No, yeah, I was about to give you some more details, and you kind of answered it before I even told you what it's all about. Apparently, it was a widely available pink rope. But still, it's a clue that this person brought in that pink rope. There was another weird thing happening. There was a white Valiant RP5 sedan parked outside of the residence, and there are two, and I can't for a fact confirm or deny, because one report apparently stated that someone had seen this car at 5:30 a.m. in the morning of the murders. There are other reports stating that it was earlier in the evening. Now, why 5:30 is weird is because the neighbor heard shots at 3 a.m. And if the sighting of the car at 5:30 is correct, and if the killer was driving the car, why would the killer stay in the house for 2.5 hours while not stealing anything or leaving no fingerprints? Kind of bizarre.
Really bizarre. I actually wanted to bring that up earlier. The fact that nothing was stolen. So it wasn't a random robbery per se. And it wasn't a random attack. It feels very targeted. And the manner in which they were tied up and the manner in which they died seems like very... How would I say it properly? Like, there's anger around it. You know what I mean?
You feel that there's a personal reason?
Vendetta, yeah. It feels like it, because why would you tie up, like, two really kind-looking people?
Yeah, what I don't understand, if this is a hit for some reason, what's the reason to do the hit? I don't know. Bill is...
Loan manager.
He's a bank manager. Like, Bill is an important person, like, in the town. What is the reasoning to, like, okay, if you're gonna do a hit, I guess Bill, it's imaginable that Bill could be like, someone would want to take him out because he was, like, responsible for a lot of important stuff. But then why tie them up?
Yeah, maybe they needed to extract information. Maybe I'm watching way too much crime shows.
No, maybe that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that the killer was probably talking to the victims because
for a little bit, right?
For a little bit, because if they already went through like the hassle of like sneaking into the house through the backyard with the ladder and killing the couple, why wouldn't they just shoot them as they were sleeping? Why?
That is true.
Yeah, why wake them up, tie them up?
And I wonder if there's only one person in there.
That's also a good question. Law enforcement said that they believe it was only one person.
But how can you tie up one person? How could you
tie up two person at the same time?
No, I'm thinking, how could you scare two people if you're just one person? Like, maybe that killer had a gun with him or with her, but then how
Well, clearly.
Yeah, but how? Like when he's tying up one person, of course the gun would be like.
So this is a good question because there were different knots on the victims.
Ooh.
So Edith was, her hands were tied in a very, like, let's say, advanced knot. It was tied in a Boy Scout knot, and Bill was involved with the Scouts, and he was a Boy Scout, and then later on he was like some sort of a supervisor. So it's believed that the killer first ordered Bill to tie up Edith's hands, and then his hands got tied up after that
By the killer.
by the killer, because Bill's hands were tied with like this really, I would say, primitive, as I understand, knot, which was super tight. But I don't get why you ask Bill to tie up Edith and not the other way around, because I feel like there is way more danger for the killer to manually tie up Bill's hands than tying up manually Edith's hands. You know, Bill is a man. He could potentially challenge you for that gun as you're trying to tie him up. Could you imagine? Like, try to imagine this situation. It's
Or-
really weird. Like, it doesn't sit right with me.
Or maybe it's easier to control them when Edith was tied up first. Because maybe the killer is, I don't know, putting Bill in a. What do you call that? Help
Like,
me out in this one.
Pointing a gun to the head.
As the killer was tying him up.
No, it still doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
To me, wouldn't you agree that for a killer, it would make way more sense to tie up, to ask Edith to tie up Bill, and then for himself to tie up Edith?
Yeah, that's true. Why would you leave a stronger person
Yeah.
untied?
Another weird thing for me that jumps out is that they were both gagged with Bill's ties. So, work ties. So, this killer, didn't bring like any gag. He had to improvise. Which means that, I mean, I don't know. Don't you think that it makes it more likely that this is not a professional killer?
Definitely not a professional killer. I'm wondering though if that rope belonged to Bill. The pink rope.
So I think the rope didn't belong to him. So this person did bring in a rope, but he didn't bring in a
Gag.
gag. Another thing that was never explained, if the ladder belonged to the Moffatts. You know, the ladder that was like against the window.
Yeah, but I'm picturing more of it as a step stool rather than an actual ladder.
I think so, because the house doesn't look like the windows are that high.
Yeah, I think they just need like maybe a couple of steps and you could just go into the window.
But still, this is a very strange murder, because to me it feels like it's either super professional or super amateur. Why I say that is because I only see a super insane military professional sneaking into the house at night through the windows. This is like Navy SEALs stuff.
No, not necessarily because
You don't think so?
no, because if they were living in a third floor of a building, then it would be weird. But they literally only have one floor. So it's easier to get into the window.
But do you think that there's like a chance that this killer, like did some tweaking of the window before they snuck in that night? Or
Honestly, I don't think so.
do you think it was already open?
I have a feeling that it was open.
Yeah, well, it was September in Australia. I feel like it's probably a hot time there.
It gets cold in Australia, no?
Yeah, but I think they have. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I feel like they have like the
The
reversed,
reversed one,
like
yeah.
like their summer is at like a different time than our summer.
Okay, keep on talking. I'll quickly Google it.
Yeah. So the next thing that was interesting was the fact that the bullets that were used to kill the couple, there were two bullets, and they came from a 22 caliber handgun or a rifle. So a 22 caliber handgun or a rifle is not what you typically would see, I guess, professional hitmen using when they kill people, because it's a smaller gun. It's a type of gun that will only kill you. It will definitely kill you, but it will only kill you if you point it at the right place. And it's not a very strong caliber of a gun, so it's not something a typical hitman would use. And the most bizarre thing to me is that the bullets, right, as I understand, there were two bullets that were used in the murders. They were both from different manufacturers. So the bullet that killed Edith and the bullet that killed Bill came from different manufacturers. Okay, give us the infos.
Oh, so typical September temperatures in Queensland. Lows would be 13 to 16 degrees Celsius, and for our American listeners, 55 to 61 degrees Fahrenheit, and the highs would be 25 to 28 degrees Celsius, which is 77 to 82 degree Fahrenheit.
Well, I wonder what's at night though. What is the temperature at night? Because I guess what we're trying to find out is if it was hot enough at night for Bill to prop open the
windows
manually.
yeah,
you know
on
what I
their
mean?
own.
That's what I guess that's what we're trying to figure out. Like,
Around 14 degrees.
that's not that warm.
It's not that warm, yeah.
You wouldn't open up the windows if it's 14. So that means the windows probably were closed.
But it was also the 50s. No, maybe the windows are just like easily openable.
Oh yeah, I guess
Like you just push it up and then
it
you're
wasn't the 50s. It was the 70s.
Oh,
it
70s
was
then,
late
sorry.
70s. But still, I get what you're saying. Like like windows in the 70s in Australia. I have no idea what that was like. You know. So now going back to the bullets. Two bullets were used, one for Edith, one for Bill, and they came from different manufacturers.
So are we assuming that the killer, whoever he or she was, had a makeshift gun?
Not necessarily a makeshift gun, but I feel like, I mean, it looks like they were using what they had on hand. They weren't even like using from the same manufacturer produced bullets.
So now the question of the killer being a professional is gone. Because if you were a professional, you probably would have had something better.
Honestly, I don't see how this is a professional hit, because it doesn't make sense. The shots were heard by a neighbor. A car was spotted, so it wasn't hidden. I guess one fingerprint was left also on the ground, so it's like you left something behind. By the way, the fingerprint was never connected to anyone, so it's presumably the killer's fingerprint. I would say pink rope sounds kind of weird, but maybe not.
Nah, honestly, that pink rope sounds very amateurish.
Yeah, you would think, right? Like someone just went to the hardware store and just bought some. But then again, if you buy a readily available rope, it makes it harder to track who bought it. So it's like also, you don't want to buy something too specific.
True.
The gun was a 22 caliber, which once again is like a smaller gun or a rifle. Like a caliber is basically the width of the bullet. So this is a skinny bullet, if that makes sense. And this type of skinny bullet, it will only kill you if you exactly know where you're shooting. And as a hitman, you might want to have something with a bigger caliber.
And as an amateur, because I'm just trying to put myself in the killer's shoes here,
Yeah.
I have never fired a gun before. Like, you know, some people do at the firing range.
I have no idea what I fired.
Oh, really?
I fired a gun like maybe a decade ago.
No. Tell me what it felt like. Like, did you hit the target? Close range?
No.
Was it easy?
No, it looked like, it was so funny. We were basically, I was on my like security guard trainings. It's funny, I never worked as a security guard a day in my life, but I do have the license. But during the trainings, they gave us a gun. I have no idea what the gun was, what kind of gun it was, and we had to shoot at the target, and the target was really close. And I was like, oh, this is easy. But then when you actually try to hit it, like it was going like so somewhere else completely, and it was so loud. So it was weird.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm thinking, the killer managed to shoot them in the head.
I feel like it was as they were tied up to like close range.
Mm-hmm. But can you do that as a person who only handled a gun once or twice?
Yes, like if you're gonna just, because all you have to do is
like literally put it on their foreheads.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think.
Okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah, no, I
Because
think
I'm assuming they were doing it a little bit in the distance, not too far, but maybe 5 to 10 inches away.
I mean, we don't know that. Mm-hmm. We don't know this.
I just
piece.
assumed it.
Yeah. So okay, so that's weird. And the two bullets, I think we're both on the same page that this feels like not a professional hit.
No.
And I always had this feeling that whoever killed Bill and Edith were lucky to get away. I always felt like after doing my research, for some reason, I'm feeling that whoever killed these two people were lucky to get away.
Do you think it was just out of luck?
That they got away?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I always felt that way.
Because it's kind of messy.
It's not, it looks like really clean and professional.
But if you look at the details, it's kind of messy.
But it's like, I could see how this could have went.
No, come on. There was a
badly.
neighbor who heard it.
There was a dog, there was a neighbor, there was a car sighting, there was one fingerprint left behind. Like there was things that were kind of like...
Working against the killer.
Yeah, working against the killer.
Look, can you imagine if that neighbor didn't just ignore the sounds?
Yeah, I would have. We would have a different case probably. We'd have a better sighting or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty interesting though. I wonder what Bill and Edith were hiding. Edith.
So now we jump to the theories provided by the write-up, and then I will add one of my theories. Well, not really my theories, but someone else's theories outside of the write-up. Okay, so there are 4 theories being presented here. By the way, I'm just gonna quickly give a shout out to the person who provided this. This is Paperclip My Heart on Reddit, posting on Queensland subreddit.
Love the name.
Yeah, I got most of the information from Paperclip My Heart from Queensland subreddit on Reddit. Thank you very much for this amazing post, and hopefully you don't mind that we use this information, because this is a good piece of information that you provided us. So these are the theories. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly give you the roundup. So one of the theory is that there is a chance that this could be a bank robbery gone wrong, because Bill was the bank manager and he had the keys to the bank.
No, I don't think so. Mainly because nothing was stolen from the house. If it was a robbery, bank robbery, let's just put it that way, and then I'm assuming at least the killer would have taken the money in the house.
There was valuables in the house. If you're gonna rob a bank,
Might as well rob the house
Might as well rob the house
of the bank manager
I actually think
that you already killed.
that's a good point. I kind of agree with you on this one. Another theory being proposed is that there were some sort of a personal grievances. It could have been anyone because Bill was an important person in the society. So it could have been one of the bank's customers that were denied the bank loan. It could have been maybe someone connected to the church, or maybe even someone from the Boy Scouts community, because these are the communities that Bill was heavily involved in. So police did look at every single person who got denied a bank loan recently, and they couldn't pin it on anyone. So they investigated that much. And personal grievances, I would say that this looks like what it is. Like someone didn't steal anything from the house. They wanted to kill Bill or Edith, but, or both of them.
Do we have any idea who got killed first?
No. I don't think I think it's impossible to tell.
Because I can imagine if the killer had a personal grievance towards Bill, that they'd kill Edith first and make Bill watch it. If we're going down the really morbid route, of course.
Actually, someone mentioned that.
Oh.
I was reading on Reddit, someone mentioned that. Someone mentioned that they think that that's how it would go down if Bill was the intended target. Like, you probably want to kill Edith quickly because you don't want her to suffer if you have nothing against her.
And you want Bill to suffer, of course.
And then Bill to suffer, yeah, that's true. Okay, so another theory is that Bill may have known too much, and this is already going into the conspiratorial side of things, because when Bill was working in Kingaroy, remember I told you earlier that he was working in Kingaroy, he was going to church in Kingaroy with the state premier. I feel like it's the analog of a governor in America, so like, let's say something like that, but it's in Australia, and it's a state premier, a notorious guy called Joe Bielke Peterson. Probably butchered his name, but I don't care. John Peterson, like Joe Peterson, he was a very long time premier in Queensland. He had a long political career, which he had shady dealings at some point, and he had to leave office in 87, 10 years after the Moffatt murder. So while Bill Moffatt was in Kingaroy, he was the bank's, the CBA bank's manager in Kingaroy, and this guy, Joe Peterson, he was the number one customer of the bank. So the connection would be that Joe and Bill somehow knew too much. And there's an alleged information, I don't know exactly, but allegedly Joe Peterson sent a crack team of detectives to investigate his friend's murder, meaning Bill's murder. But I think this is alleged. We don't know for sure if that happened. Anyways, not much to comment on this one, because what are you going to comment on this one, right? And then we have another hitman theory, and this is apparently in recent years police are now theorizing that Bill, and I think this is what police are leaning towards, but I kind of don't see it. But okay, let's talk about it. Police is leaning towards that Bill was killed because of his job. One thing that he had to do at work was to do property valuations. Kind of crazy. Bank managers back in the day. And okay, I'm gonna do a quick announcement here. I worked also at a bank for like 3 years, okay? I do absolutely nothing of this sort.
But you're more into the modern aspects of the bank now. You're not doing loans and property valuation.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone does.
Really?
Yeah, like at the bank where I work. I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to me that like some people at the bank actually do like
hardcore heavy stuff.
Like loan value, like a loan.
I mean, there are like departments in a bank that deals with loans.
Yeah, for sure. But like property valuation and loan applications for the same person, I've never seen it. But perhaps back in the day, this is how you get down. You know what I mean? One person really covers the whole list of products.
I'm imagining that he's one of the top people.
Well, he was the bank manager.
There we
so
go.
he was the branch's manager. So yeah, he was doing a bunch of stuff. So basically, he was property valuation. So into property valuation. So there was a Harvey Bay boom. Basically, Harvey Bay is a location in Queensland that basically real estate was booming there. And what would happen is that these real estate agents, they would fly out rich businessmen or people with money, with wealth, from Sydney and Melbourne, and they would try to get them to buy land in Harvey Bay. But in theory, what they were doing is they were telling that this land is way more expensive to these rich guys from Melbourne and Sydney than it actually was. Because back in the day in 77, there wasn't internet. You couldn't just, cross-check what the prices are. So they would literally creating a bubble. And I guess Bill, in this type of a scenario, could have noticed something off in the valuation, or maybe he was asked to do a valuation, I'm thinking, and he didn't want to do it, or he did it and he was asked to change it into a bigger value by gangsters, and those gangsters ordered a hit. And this is what police believe. So it's not like, or like police are theorizing. So this is not crazy talk. I'm not doing some crazy talk right now. I'm literally telling you what police recently came up with. They're not thinking that this was a personal attack on Bill, who apparently had no enemies and was a very stand-up guy. Police are thinking this was gangsters killing him due to his land valuation job responsibilities. This is police saying that, not me. I'm not saying nothing.
That's very interesting, yeah. Because that would make sense. Because I'm just thinking, of course, I'm no professional here. I'm just thinking, whoever killed the couple, Bill and Edith, either knew them personally enough to know their address and how to take care of the dog, and
how to get inside,
how to get inside their bedroom, how to get inside their house, and blah 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 and so on. Or it could be someone who has done it before.
You know why I can't get behind this? Why tie up and potentially ask questions?
Come on, gang members are just ruthless. Well, some.
I think if it was just a matter of getting rid of Bill, why kill Edith? Why
Witness.
No, then why not kill Bill when
On the way
he's
to work or
yeah,
something?
like would you home invade Bill
That's true.
and tie him up and use like different shell and use this kind of
But come on.
little caliber gun?
The gun and the bullets kind of made sense in terms of it involving a gang.
Well, those guns apparently 22 caliber are easily 23 caliber easily
Available.
22 caliber, yeah, easily available, not super easily, like apparently in Australia guns are not as easily available as in America, but I would say a 22 caliber in the 70s you could still probably get your hands on it, even if you're not a murderer. So I would say that to your point, which I already kind of forgot what your point was.
It could either be someone who knew them personally to get to know their way around the house and to get past the dog, or someone who has done it before.
Yeah, but I'm just kind of surprised that police says that that's what could have happened, because like when you really think about the clues, to me this seems more personal. It's just my opinion.
And if it's someone involving a gang member and it's a hit, why not steal some stuff on your way out?
Exactly. Or is this like some sort of in and out quick job?
But come on, they must have had some money laying around. Right?
Definitely. They had valuables and money.
How easy would it be to just steal a little bit
Steal a little bit.
on the way out?
Yeah.
But if it's just an act
Personal.
of pure anger and, I don't know, hate,
Yeah.
just in and out, you don't really care about the money. Screw
You
the
don't.
money, screw everything.
I agree with you. So there's another theory, and this was mentioned by a retired police detective. And retired police detective Bruce Hodgins, in 2019, he said he linked a very violent individual, Vincent O'Dempsey, a gang member from Queensland. Yeah, he linked him to multiple other crimes. So Vincent O'Dempsey, he is responsible for the McCulkin murders, which happened 3 years before the Moffatt murders. 3 years before the Moffatt murders, on January in '74, Barbara McCulkin and her 2 daughters were murdered, and it was only 40 years later that it was discovered that Vincent O'Dempsey and his accomplice Gary Dubois had murdered them, most likely due to Barbara McCulkin, the mother of the 2 daughters, knowing more information about the 2 murderers' involvement in a nightclub firebombing that happened previously. So they wanted to silence the mother because they feared that she would come out and expose the 2 men. So retired detective Bruce Hodgins thinks that this guy, O'Dempsey, he's a very violent individual. He could have been responsible for more murders. He linked several other murder sprees that he could have been involved in. One of them being Bill and Edith Moffatt. So, since the O'Dempsey, this guy killed Barbara and her 2 daughters in Brisbane, for 3 years later, I didn't find anything else linking him. So I just wanted to mention that there is this person. He was a notable killer of the time, and I feel like he wasn't involved.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think he was involved.
Why?
Because it was just too far away. It was in Brisbane, and there seems like there's...
Would he really like try to go there in the middle of the night?
Yeah, do that thing, and I just don't see it. So I'm just gonna say I don't feel like he could have been involved, because it felt like personal, and I don't think Bill had any contact with this O'Dempsey person, Vincent O'Dempsey. So I would probably rule him out. And this is where basically the information ends on the Moffatt murders. Once again, thank you very much, Kyla Davies, for bringing this one up. It's a lesser-known case from Australia. I don't know what to think about this one. It's a very strange hit in a seemingly very safe town in Australia to a guy who was well liked in the community. What do you think? I don't know. To me, after reading everything, I think there is some sort of a personal angle here that we're working with, and I could see how Bill had many enemies, could have had many enemies. Another thing to mention about Edith is that there's not a lot of information known about Edith herself. There's really nothing about her. It almost seems like the investigators are focusing on Bill. We don't know who Edith was interacting with. Maybe
I'm assuming just like people at a church or something.
yeah, right.
Right.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I don't I don't know what to think about it. I would say that to me, it from the clues, it doesn't seem like a professional hit. I think it's a personal hit, and I do think it's probably connected to Bill, and Bill being involved in Boy Scouts, him being involved in the church, restructuring of the church, interacting with the bank's clients, valuation of the properties. I feel like someone killed him because it benefited them that Bill was gone. So Bill maybe knew something. If it was like the church restructuring, maybe he knew that someone was embezzling church money. If it was bank work related, maybe he knew that someone was trying to get a higher land valuation than what it really was. If it was Boy Scout related, maybe it's a parent of a Boy Scout that thinks that the Boy Scout supervisors are doing crazy things to the kids. I don't know. I just see how someone wanted to kill Bill, and they got extremely lucky, because I see how there could have been a chance that this person would have would have gotten caught in the act, but he didn't. So I feel like it was a personal attack on Bill, and the killer got extremely lucky to get out unscathed. What do you think?
I definitely and completely agree with you. Whoever the killer was, I also think that it was driven out of anger and hate. And it was not in any way professional.
I agree. I have to agree on this one. And I think this is a good time to wrap up. I would like to ask our audience members to tell us what you guys think about the Moffatt killings. Do you have a hunch, or if we missed something, please let us know.
Or insider information, that would also be nice.
That would be nice. I mean, I feel like maybe Kyla Davies, this listener of ours, Kyla, maybe you are from Australia, because you have suggested some Australian cases. So maybe you have something else to tell us.
It's pretty interesting, though. I wonder what Bill and Edith were hiding.
I don't think they were hiding anything. I feel like maybe Bill knew too much, or was involved in something.
I see.
Where someone would benefit from him dying.
Either way, I hope they're resting in peace now.
I hope so. We will talk to you soon, guys.
Take care, as always. We'll see you very soon. Bye.
Bye.